What's up, everybody? This is Mikey Wine here, aka Gun and Morning Works, and we are live. How's it going? This is Metal Gear Rex Part 7. I'm going to be working on the base tonight. I've actually done some work on it already, but got a little bit more to do before we can start painting. So I'm going to go over that, and we'll show the fully assembled Rex and with the support. And I also made a couple little changes to the wiring, something to make it a little more portable rather than being just tied to the base. So I wanted to make sure I had something that I could disconnect, in case I needed to transport it or whatever like that. So anyhow, if you're in here, chime in, say hello in the chat, and let me know where that'll tell me exactly where you're watching from, whether it be Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. Anyway, in the meantime, let's go down to bench here. So here's the base that I've been working on. I got the fully assembled Rex here, and I've actually decided to do something different. I'm going to talk about that in a second, but I'm going to get to this. So the base that came with the kit was about a 6x6. It was really just too small. You could barely fit this thing on it. The kind of feet were kind of overhanging on the edges. So what I did is I took a piece of styrene sheet. This is a 0.5 mil, pretty thin styrene sheet, and I cut it into an 8x8, and then I added some structure back here to the back. So, and this is styrene strip from Evergreen. I think it's around 5 millimeter by 9 or something like that. A rectangular strip, pretty heavy duty stuff. But for even because this is so thin, I had to kind of create this grid work here. Let me go down to the close up here, and you'll see it a little bit closer. So yeah, I just started with a single strip cross diagonally. Once I did the board, I did the perimeter first, and then I started giving it a little more strength because this is so thin. And I'm going to do some scribing to it. I wanted to make sure that I had at least some good stability, a good flat surface, good stable surface for this to sit on, not something that's going to be all kind of spongy. So, and then I, adding the cross pieces and started adding the grid work until I came up with, filled this all in. So there was a little bit of extra. I built this area up here because that's where I was going to drill the hole. In fact, I did drill a hole for the stand to go in. In the back here, you can see this little hole. But now that I'm thinking about it, I may actually change the location. So I'm going to have to probably fill this in, because when you put this on this base, I'm going to set this here so you can kind of see what's going on. And the current hole where I drilled this out, so when I pop this in, it kind of sits right in the middle, which is fine if you're going to display it in this manner, front, back, sides. But what I think I like better is if I was to take this out, I'm just going to pop this out and then rotate it 45 degrees and put this in the back corner. Now I can display it this way. Okay. So I've got a little more room in front here, which I might need for the little figure that I'm going to probably paint up. I wasn't sure if I was going to use it or not, but there's a little Metal Gear, I think it's not liquid snake. I think it's solid snake. Anyway, tiny little 1/100 figure that I'm going to paint. It's a resin figure. I haven't even primed it yet, but we'll maybe put him somewhere over here in the front, the front of the Rex here. So the other thing that I did just the other day was I cut the wires off and I added an IC connector here to the back. So what I'm going to do, and I did a stupid thing too, I was going to solder the other side of this because I had one connector left with 2 pins that I could create this little junction point here. And I actually soldered the wires on the wrong direction. So instead of soldering them on. So I had the female connector here. I did it backwards. Anyway, that was my last IC connector. So I ordered some more. Those will be here on Friday, I think. So then I'll be able to finish the wiring. And basically what I'm going to do is that way, when I go to transport this, I can just take this off, disconnect the connector. I can take off this thing, and then I can also move the base easily enough instead of having this thing tethered to the base. But if I have the wires going straight through, then there's really nothing else I can do except have it tethered to the base. And it will stand on its own. If you set it on, as long as all four legs are touching the ground, it will stand on its own. But that clear post is a nice way to hide those wires, but it also adds a little bit of extra stability. So I'm going to use it anyway. But this will just sit in like that. So I think what I'm going to do is fill this hole. It's a little tiny. It's about a 5 millimeter hole, and then the two little tiny holes you see there, that was for the wires that we're going to go through, and then feed over here to this little chamber here where I was going to put the battery. But I think I'm going to fill this in, and I'm going to drill this in the corner here. So what I may have to do is add a little bit of plastic. I got a couple of pieces here of this extra, some scrap pieces of plastic. I'm going to add some extra strength, build this up, and then I can drill that hole, drill those tiny pilot holes for the wires, and leave it there. And then I'll fill this in. So that way I can reposition this kit. And then, like I said, I think it looks better if I turn it diagonally, kind of have it, displayed this way. It'll look nicer on a table, so like that too. So what you're also seeing is I drew some lines here where I'm going to actually scribe some grooves into this to either simulate concrete or steel plate. Either way, it'll give it some definition. So I'm going to scribe those lines tonight, at least start that. I'm going to be using a 0.3. This is a Sujiburo BMC chisel, which is really nice. I've got every single size available, but I think for this scale, probably 0.3 is fine. I also even thought about incorporating some of these in. The funny thing is, I used to work for Lexus, and when I was working for them and I was fixing cars, they had a recall come out for the millimeter wave radar system, the front sensor that was in the bumper. They had to change them out and recalibrate them. So this is actually the emitter plate for a radar cruise control system, basically, the sensor in the front of the bumper. And so I disassembled them, took these little emitter plates out, and they kind of have a nice little textured metal surface, similar to like something you might see in a hangar, some of these base kits. But I just couldn't figure out where to kind of put them. They just didn't fit in, and I was going to have to cut them or do some modifications. So I probably won't end up using these. I've got about 5 or 6 of them, but I took like 4 of them out, and I was kind of placing them around the base, just trying to see if it would work. They kind of look nice, but maybe for something smaller scale, maybe a small little Gundam might sit on there. A little 144 scale might stand up there nicely, or even something smaller. I don't know. We'll see. So I'm probably not going to use those. Anyway, so let's get back to this. Currently, right now, I got some diamond. This is scribing tape. Can't remember the brand, but I got a couple thicknesses of it. I've got some 3 mil. This is 5 millimeter, or 6, might be 6 mil. Let's see. I don't know. It might be 6, might be 5, might be 6. Let's find out. Let's see what this measures. Yeah, so this is 6 millimeter. And I'm only going to use this wider stuff anyway because I'm just doing large straight lines. It's going to be super easy. So I don't need to use the thinner stuff, which might work for a smaller project, something like this. No big deal. So anyway, let's get going. How's everybody's Wednesday? Everybody's hump day doing good so far, I hope. Day after election day. That's all I'm going to say about it. Because as you know, we do not discuss politics on my show. And I guess that's my fault for bringing it up because I don't want to talk about it. I just don't want to talk about it on the show. Not to say that I'm not happy with the results, but I just don't talk politics. So anyway, I got a few little intersecting lines here. These are about 5 inches or so square. If you were to, broad this out, you could square these off. They'd be about 5 inches square. I'm not seeing any comments, so I'm just curious if you guys are commenting. I cannot see them right now. If you're not, that's fine too. I got a few people watching. But like I said, I don't see anybody commenting yet, so I just want to make sure that system is still up and running well enough. And just I'm going to do a test here. I'm going to make sure this 3 mil or 0.3 mil scribe is good for this. So I'm going to just do a test on this first strip here. And this is pretty thin. The surface of this plastic that I made this base with is only about 0.5 mil, so I'm not going to have to go very deep. Only a few passes, otherwise I'll be cutting straight through it. So I'll do a few passes to get those lines in there, just to make sure I've got a deep enough groove, or at least so we can use some. All right, that's about it. That's all I want to do. Be able to use some pen lining on it, just to. So that looks pretty good. I don't need to go any deeper than that. It doesn't need to be much deeper than that. Now, one of the tricks a friend of mine showed me was to, after you scribe a line, you can take some, you have to clean out you can either use a brush like this, or a toothbrush or something, clean out the groove, or to clean up those lines, just take some thin cement and go down that line, and that will actually clean up the edges a little bit, softens up those rough lines where this chisel's cutting through, and let that sit and it'll be fine. Okay, so I guess I'll do, it's not going to take long to do this. I'm just going to do one big direction here, one here, a couple little small ones, and then we'll move on to the next part of this thing. Looks like everybody might be staying in tonight. Not doing too much. One thing I will say is that, in my industry, a lot of our customers are work for Boeing, and their strike has been affecting, our business as far as how many people are actually having their car serviced with us. So we're hoping too that the Boeing strike will end soon as well. It's kind of all these things happening all at once, with everything that's going on, everything else going on in the country. Actually, I'm not going to fold that. I think these are better off. I'm going to reposition this one a little bit. So I noticed when I tried to fold this over the edge, it just kind of bubbled up. So I'm going to leave this. I'm not going to fold this over. Like on the edge here, I was folding these edges of the tape over, but it was just kind of causing a bubble right in the corner. which is easy. So the best way to do this, because this is also pretty thin, is just start with a very light pass first, because these, you don't want to go too aggressive, otherwise you might veer off of your line. So I'm trying to make sure that the tape is well stuck, and then we're just going to, start with a very light pass, and then we can increase that, go a little bit further. So just starting off very, very slowly, right up against the tape. This is a pretty long line, so it's okay to take it slow. So I don't want my lines to be all crooked and sideways, but after a couple of passes, we get a nice enough groove that the following passes will tend to stay in that groove a little easier. So, just kind of take a nice, not doing a lot of pressure, letting the chisel do the work. So maybe 1 or 2 more passes per line, and leave it at that. Otherwise, I'll be, like I said, I'll be chopping through the. I don't want to go through the plastic because that base sheet is pretty thin. Okay, so that should be good for that line. Pull this up. Yeah, that looks nice. I might as well reuse this strip just to do this little short section over here. Oops. It did not stick where I wanted it to. All right. So this one's a pretty short line. It's just I'm going to go this direction though, just to make sure the other end of that line goes off of the edge. There we go. Okay. All right, so push out that, and then again we'll take this thin cement here. I'm going to do this line and then this little short one. All that really does is just softens up those edges a little bit. So I might go in with a little bit of, in these intersecting areas where the lines cross, I might go in with the chisel and kind of, I don't know how to describe it, kind of chisel a little more, maybe soften those corner edges up. Like if this was, concrete, slabs, those corner edges might be a little, they might be a little, chipped or chewed up a little bit. So kind of nobody talking today. I got nobody in comments. You guys, message me privately. If you are messaging on, you're putting comments up and nothing is coming up on my screen, just go ahead and shoot me a private message right now, and I'll see it and let you know or let me know that, hey, something's not right, because usually people are pretty chatty right about now. So the fact that I don't have any comments in my stream anyway. All right, so just going to lay down this. Oops, barely cut this long enough, so I'm going to kind of go right to the edge, using my pencil marks as a guide. Okay. It still is pretty soft. I mean, even though I reinforced the underside of this base pretty good, it's still kind of, if you press down on it, it will flex a little bit. So that's why I've got to kind of stick this tape on there very gingerly. And then I think what I'm going to do first on this leading edge here, I'm just going to give myself a couple little starting scribes, just so I can go back in this direction. That'll bring me right up that lead edge, and then I'll try not to veer off and go straight across this. This is a long line. Kind of nerve-wracking because it just feels like it wants to try to veer off, but as long as you do just a light pass and get at least the first two passes light enough, don't put a ton of pressure on it, but follow that scribing tape, then the third and fourth pass is a lot easier. Okay, I think one more and then we'll be done with this line. See, it's a lot easier for me to go a little bit faster once I've got 2 or 3 good passes, because now that chisel's going to stay in that groove a little easier. All right. Now we're going to, again, run our thin cement down that line. The next one's going to be intersecting some of these other lines, so it's going to be a little bit more challenging because we're going to be crossing over two lines. So we want to be careful once we hit those intersect points that we don't veer off. What's up, Nick? How you doing, bud? Good to see you, as always. At least we know somebody's chatting in the chat tonight. I wasn't sure anybody could, because at first I wasn't getting anybody talking. All right, one last line here. This one's going to be the tough one, so I'm going to go long enough to get across all these points here. I'm going to cut this. All right. This is my 6mm scribing tape. I don't use it a lot because it's a lot wider. Darn it, it's sticking, trying to mess with me now. I'm trying to get this thing to, there we go. The thinner stuff is a little bit easier to work with, but because I'm doing rather long straight lines here, I'm not too concerned about it. I'm just making sure my lines are straight. Okay, that's pretty good. Oh, you made it. Hey, Julius. Good to have you too, as always. Thank you for joining in. Thanks for supporting the channel. You guys are both coming to me from YouTube. Trying to grow those numbers on the YouTube channel. We got plenty on Facebook. So now we're just trying to build up the YouTube channel, get those subscriptions up wherever possible, and keep moving forward. All right. So, last line here. And what I may do, if I come up to a point where this is getting too hard to jump across this line, I may just stop here and then continue on, do it in sections. So I'm going to do the same thing I started with the first time, or the last line was. I'm just going to, just to get a couple little grooves here right where it goes off the base, just so I can have a place to start with on this line. And then again, light pressure. This is just the first pass, so we don't want to veer off. So we're going to do light pressure. Looks like it went across that intersection just fine. It didn't try to veer off, because again, I'm not going too deep here. I got this plastic's pretty thin. Okay, I'm going to cross this line. There, I think we got it. Okay, and if you do, you can always fill these with CA glue and rescribe it if you have to. If you do make a mistake, it does veer off. It's not the end of the world. So I'm doing the second pass here. Each consecutive pass gets a little bit easier. Let's shred the plastic over. Angel's in. What's going on? Better late than never. Well, that's good because, like I said, earlier on, nobody was talking. It was just, you guys are the first ones to start chatting with me. I was just wondering if there was a problem at first, because it's kind of unusual that people don't come in right away or at least say hi. All right, last pass. All right, I think we're done with that. So we'll take this off. All right, now, okay, I've got to do one last thing with I want to say CA glue, but I'm not using CA glue. I'm using thin cement here. And this is just to soften the edges of those lines I just scribed. It's a little trick I learned from good old George, Mr. Old School, who does this whenever he scribes a line, and it does kind of help keep that line nice and clean. Is your mic in front of you? Maybe I'm just deaf. Yeah, it is in front of me, actually. Does it seem low or something? Let me check my settings. I don't know. It's literally right in front of me. So let's go audio. See here. Check. No, it still sounds good. Maybe you're just deaf. Just turn your volume up. Maybe just do that. I'm just kidding. No, and for once I did remember to swivel it over, so it is right next to me. Maybe I'm just talking softly today. All right, so you can still faintly see those lines on camera. It's a little bit harder to see, but there's one here, a little one, short one here. These were about 5-inch squares if I were to connect all the lines. But I just took a random angle just to kind of break it up. But I think what I want to do, I'm going to see if I've got some round rod. I don't know if I've got any that big. I may just have to fill it with CA glue, but I think I want to fill this hole here and move it to the corner. That way I can kind of reposition this and then display the kit kind of in this fashion. This would be back, front, and sides versus back, front and sides this way. Does sound softer. Huh. I don't know why. I didn't change anything up on my audio, but well, let's see what we can do. It's still the same speaker, still the same microphone. Reduce mic background noise. Oh, I can do some changes there. Echo cancellation. I got some settings I can deal with here, but I don't know. Echo must be off. Let's see. It must be off to use stereo. Let's try this. Does that sound any better? I'll try stereo audio. Stereo audio. Let's see if that sounds a little bit better for you guys. Anyway. Maybe it was just the scribe making it hard to hear you. That's possible, Nick. Yeah, the scribing, it probably is picking up that noise because it is pretty loud. It's pretty loud on my end, so could be that the scribing was louder. No, that's way worse. Oh God. Okay, so let's get rid of stereo audio, huh? We'll go back and try that over. Let's see. Go get rid of that. Cancellation. Automatically adjust mic volume. All right, let's try that. How's that sound? We'll try to automatically adjust. Let's see if that sounds any better. That's funny because never had any issues before. I don't know why things have changed now, unless there was an update that happened maybe maybe an update to the StreamYard software that has changed the settings a bit. So let me know, Nick, if that sounds any good, since unless anybody else can chime in, let me know if that sounds any better. That's better. The last setting almost muted you. Wow. So what I left it with here, I left it automatically adjusting mic volume, so we'll leave it there. And I left on echo cancellation because when I turned off echo cancellation, that seemed to make it worse. So, all right, we'll just stick with that. And for now, we'll see. All right, so what I had to do on the back here, remember where I drilled this hole? I'm probably going to end up filling it now. Added a little bit of extra meat here to the base. I just put some shorter pieces in here, kind of, so I had something to drill into. Because again, the sheet plastic is only like 0.5 mil. It's really thin, so I needed some strength there to hold on, so that pin had something to go into. So, but what I'm going to do is move it to this corner over here. So I'm going to have to add some pieces in here. And I got a couple little scraps. I can pop one in there, maybe pop another one in here. That should give me, or even over here, I could probably do the same thing. Just flip over. Yeah, stick them both in there, kind of like that. Glue those in, and that will give me enough of an area that I can actually drill a new hole, and then run my wires over to one of these other little chambers where the battery will be housed. It's going to run on a single 3-volt. It's just one blue LED. There's really nothing else to it. Everything else is done with fiber optics. So waste not, want not. So I'm going to use these scrap pieces here I had left over, and might as well glue them in place. And then, so I'm just cleaning up the cuts, because I bought myself a little one of those hobby miter boxes, and so I was able to, yeah, that works better. I think I'm going to do it that direction. That will kind of double up that area, and then I can drill that hole basically right in the corner here. I may add this one more piece just kind of in here, maybe somehow. I might flip it over and do it this direction. Yeah, see that kind of, or actually, you know what I could do? I could put this one over here, I suppose, and then that would kind of beef up this corner because I'm going to drill that hole right down in here somewhere. So, but I think I have one more piece. I might have one in the bag. Let me check. Okay, so yeah, I do have a couple, but nothing cut at a 45. So what I was using is this is Evergreen number 401, which is 4 by 8 millimeter by 9.5 millimeter. Rather long strips. They're really long pieces, almost like 2 feet long. And then I just, this is the bag here. So I got a couple of scraps here. But I think I have enough of these small little pieces. I just need a little bit to reinforce that corner. So when I go to drill that hole for that stand piece, it'll fit in there nicely. I may have to add a little bit of CA2 to fill in some of the corners here. I'm gonna, once I prime this base, then I'll be able to see a lot better whether or not I need to make some fixes to my seams and stuff. Because what I started with, I talked about this earlier, and I'll go over it again. I started with basically just the outer frame. I cut them all at 45-degree angles, and then I just built the frame 8 inches, 8 inches, 8 inches. But of course, the cuts aren't perfect. There's a little bit of a gap here, right at this corner. I might have to fill that with some CA, and then sand it down. But for the most part, most of my corners are pretty good. In case I see a little bit of a seam from the top sheet to those outer pieces, I may need to do that. And then this was all just a lot of cutting, a lot of measuring, a lot of cutting. Some of them at the diagonals, and then some of them straight pieces, and just filling in, giving it some structure, giving it some stability. So move that to there. So I'm going to use this corner. All right, let's glue this in. So this is going to go this way. Okay. So I'm just going to drop in a little bit of thin cement here. Then I can tuck this in the corner. Nice and tight. It doesn't have to be perfect, but this ball of the thin cement is starting to get a little bit low, so it's having to kind of stir it up every time I go to grab some. So I'm just going to tuck this in here, give it some good pressure, and hold it so I get a nice good bond. I got a little bit coming out of the top here, which is fine. And that way, when I go to drill that hole, and the hole is only about I think it's like a 5-30 seconds, or if I remember right, it's not very large. It's just see, now it's bigger than that. I'm trying to think. I have a drill bit, but it's in my drill right now. All right. So I think if I were to put that should probably be enough. I don't think I'm going to need this other piece, because this is going into the corner here, and it's really just bonding this all together. Then when I go to drill, let's see. Yeah. So I'll have basically, let me grab, where is that base? Let me take this off the bottom here. So here's a little closer view of that IC connector. So I cut the wires off and I added this, and then I'll have a female one. I actually soldered the wrong direction, so I have to use another one when they come in on Friday. But I'll be able to connect here and disconnect this, and then I can take the base off if I want to transport this kit rather than having it just completely tethered to the base. So originally I had this in here that this kind of sits kind of about right there. And then I was going to run the wires out the bottom, but what I'm going to do is move this over to this corner. So I'm going to have to redrill. I'm going to fill this hole, sand it all down so you won't be able to see that anymore. And then I'm going to re-drill this in the corner so that way the kit will kind of fit better on the base. So far, so good. So yeah, what an interesting couple of days we've had, huh? All right. So I'm still going to use this. Still going to run that magnet wire through the base. My original spot was going to be right about here to use as a battery, but now what I'll do, I think if it'll fit, I've got to check the size. Okay, the battery will fit, but I don't think the size of the holder will fit. So what I've got here, let me grab one of those really quick. Let me just get a different pen. Let's see, here we go. All right, so what I have is I bought a bunch of these a while back. Now this is one style of those, battery holders. I don't really like these very much. Not only they're a little bulky, but also when you press a battery down in here, it basically clicks in and it's very difficult to get back out. So if you ever had to change them out, it's kind of a pain in the butt. So I found these, and these are much nicer. Okay, so this is more of a flat. The battery goes in through, here. It even tells you plus, minus. And then you've got 3 pins that you can use to solder your wires on. You got 2 positive leads and 1 negative lead. So it makes it pretty simple. That's what I'll use. In fact, let me grab that one is actually used. I'm going to grab this a brand new one here. Let me see if this will fit. So what I'll do, whoops, sorry guys. So I'm going to just pop this battery in. So this is what it looks like installed. And it also makes it a little bit easier to take out. Sometimes you can even go halfway in. You don't even have to go all the way in. But what I want to see is if this is going to fit. Now, see, this won't fit in there now with the holder. So what I'll do is I'll just run the wires over here, one more slot, and then I'll put it in this position, and that will fit in there nicely. Won't even need to do any modification or anything to any of these little chambers here. I'm just going to go over. I could even go over here, but this is closer. I'll just use this one. Giovanni's in. I'm really interested in this build. Maybe I'll do mine next year. Well, good, man. I'm glad if I'm a source of inspiration for you. Absolutely. That's awesome. I know I get the same kind of, I get inspired by watching other builders as well. So if that helps you in any way, I'm glad to be helping out. Okay. Now, let's see if we've got any plastic rod. I don't have any big enough to fit that hole, but I have a piece that's fairly close. So I might supplement it with a little bit of CA just to fill in the back. So these are, I think, 5mm rods. It's almost the same size as the hole. Not quite, but it will give me a place to start. I can cut off a chunk of this and pop it in there with some CA glue, and then I'll use a little bit of accelerator to really crystallize that and get it in place. And then I can sand it down. I'll fill in the 2 little tiny holes too that I also drilled out for the wiring, and then we can change the location of where that base is going to go. I don't know, Giovanni. Why don't you start start this year instead of next year. I mean, it's still this year, right? Tune in late. Don't worry about it. Everybody's kind of tuning in a little bit late today. It's no big deal. I'm just glad everybody's here. For those of you that have chimed in on the chats, it's great to see you. And for those that are watching, that's good too. I'm happy to have you. Sorry, I got like a chunk of fingernail scratching me. All right, so let's do this real quick. I'm going to trim this piece down. I bought these. These are like, 4mm rods, but they're really kind of rough cut. So I'm just going to, actually I can cut this off and then I can trim it down from there. So let's see. I'm going to kind of cut this off camera here because it's a little bit harder. Could use the chopper, which I may end up having to use because this is a little bit harder to cut. So let's bust out the chopper. All right, so there we go. Oh yeah, much easier. Well, almost lost it. All right, got my little piece, one chop, and we're done. So what I will do here, let me grab some tweezers here. All right, I'm just going to drop this in. I'm going to put some CA around it, and then I can come back with my God hands and just trim this down to me. These two holes will be easy to fill because they're tiny, but the big one is going to take a little bit longer. So working on my entry, I put aside HT Domtropin and the PGX. Your entry for, I know you probably told me, and I'm trying to remember. Entry for, what is that, a show you're going to this weekend? I think, or I can't remember. Sorry I forgot. I know you probably told me last week. So I'm just going to drop a pretty healthy drop of CA in there. And now that worked out pretty good because now the excess has pushed out around the edges, which is totally fine by me because now that'll fill in all those little excess space or whatever around the edge of that. Get to the chopper. That's right. Strider Prime. That's right. I know you told me that, and I forgot the name of it. But I guess Strider Prime is not the easiest name to remember. All right, so a little extra CA here, so I'm just going to spread it around the edges. All right, now I'm going to drop a couple of little drops into those smaller holes. I don't need to fill them entirely, just up top here. And then I'll put some Insta-Set on there, and then I may have to reapply a little bit there because that glue is wanting to go down through those holes. So got my whoa, what happened here? That was weird. Almost didn't want to come off. Okay, so got a little bottle of, this is my Insta-Set here. It's the accelerator, same stuff from Bob Smith, but it's just in bulk, a little bit bigger bottle. I put in these little applicators. You can find these on my Amazon store. And we just go down that way we can control how much of this and where it goes. Makes it way easier because a lot of times when you buy those little bottles, it comes with a pump sprayer and the pump just sprays everywhere. So we'll let that sit for a sec, and then I'll go back and actually I'll just do it. I'm just going to put another little drop on each one of these smaller holes now that I've got that accelerant down there, this will set very quickly. All right. Let that dry. Well, good luck with the contest. When is it? Is it this weekend, or is it in a couple of weeks, or it's an online, right? So you've got a deadline or something like that? If memory serves. All right. So I'm just going to let this dry. I'm going to take a little bit of that excess that Instaset. I think this is a lot. So I'm going to add a little bit more here to this larger piece. And then what I'll do, now this is sticking up a little bit. When this is dry and it finally fully cures, then I'll go through and I'll just take my God hands and I can trim that as close to that surface as possible, and then I can sand it the rest of the way. So far the grooves look good, the lines look good. You still kind of see them here in the base. Probably do this in a gray or something to look kind of like concrete, or steel plate, maybe something a little darker. I'll probably pre-shade it. Actually, I'll probably just prime it in black, and that'll work as my pre-shade, and then I'll use one of my gray colors too. All right, that is pretty much set. Looks like though. Yeah, I'm going to have to add a little bit more to these holes here, the little tiny holes. December 31st, huh? Wow. New Year's Eve. Cool deal. So are you just starting on it, or have you well into it? I mean, how much you think it's going to be easier to make the deadline? Or are you concerned about it? That's just basically 2 months, a little under 2 months away. I mean, I was trying to do the old to gold competition, and I my weekends were really taken up a lot during that, so I couldn't do a lot of work. And I was kind of concerned about making the deadline because I really don't like deadlines. And contests are one thing. And I do a commission from time to time, but one of the first questions I ask anybody that asks me for any kind of a commission is, do you have a deadline? Because I don't do deadlines. It is a hobby. At the end of the day, it's a hobby. And if you've got a deadline, I don't want that kind of pressure. It just makes it difficult to really do a project and do it well if you're under the gun trying to get it done. I think it just, if you're able to relax and work the project, I think it's better off. Okay, so I got enough glue in there to fill that entire thing in. Now I just got to sand this down. So I'm going to try to chop off a little bit here. Hopefully I don't destroy my God hands. And I'm just going to try to grab a little bit here. Just want to make sure this is cured. Don't need glue on the God hands, that's for sure. So we'll see if I can get down. There we go. Just trimmed off the top. A little bit more. If I can grab it. I'm just going to try to shave off the little layer there. There we go. So now I'm just going to take a little bit of sanding, and that should be nice and filled. Okay. glad I didn't destroy those. Okay, let's see here. Let's take this back, put this back. Becomes a job and not fun. That is true. Yeah. Now it's okay to make money at it if you enjoy doing what you're doing, but I just think that if I'm being rushed, I almost feel like I'm being rushed. If I have a deadline or something like that, I don't want to be rushed. I want to be able to produce something nice that I'm happy with without feeling like I had to make shortcuts or something like that. All right, I'm looking for, there we go. I was looking for my heavy duty sanding stick here. This is my 1/100, which is pretty aggressive. I just want to take this glue down. Doing a lot of panel lining and also adding more plate armor. Oh, cool. Sounds like something I did back in 2016, 2017 maybe. Was it yeah, maybe 16 or 17. I did an MG Jesta, and then I pretty much every single, in fact, if you look at this, watch the image that's going to come out. This is my MG Jesta. I'm going to put the camera to sleep, and it'll show an image on the screen, which is my entry for 2016 GBWC, which was an MG Jesta that I had pretty much touched every single panel, did some kind of armor modification and or panel lining. I hire a guy to do commissions for me. I haven't heard from the guy in almost a year. Wow. All right, let me show you this real quick. It's going to come up on the image when I put this camera to sleep. So sleep tiny. Sleep tiny. There it goes. So anyway, that's what my MG Jesta looked like. And there we go. Don't know if the audio went off during that, but that's an image I just uploaded tonight when I put the camera to sleep. So if the camera does go to sleep accidentally, at least it will show something nice other than just a black screen. But that was my just an urban assault type. Made a custom ammo box on the shield. It's going to take a little more work than I thought to smooth this out. You can still see the glue. It's raised up, but it's all right. A little bit of elbow grease never hurt anybody. I'll go over it with some less aggressive sticks here when I get down to it. Smooth it out. Looks better in person. Well, thank you. Unfortunately, I didn't win that year. Didn't win the qualifier. I got second place, which is fine. Can't win all the time. Time though, a lot of my entries, in fact the last few years I entered anything in GBWC was all kind of those city urban dioramas with either using real grades or MG in that case, using a lot of railroad building kits and kind of getting away with N scale for 144 stuff, and HO scale was closer to 1/100 for the master grade stuff. So this is pretty smooth here. I can still feel a little bit of a bump. I won't know for sure until after I put the first wave of primer on it. And then we'll shaking the desk pretty hard here because I'm really putting a lot of pressure on this. Just trying to fill that hole. So I probably won't be able to drill the new location tonight. I've got to wait for this to bond completely. Otherwise, it might just shred and make a mess, make it even harder to fix. So, but this is looking pretty good. You can kind of see it still looks like a crescent moon. Let's see. Whoop, there we go. So you can still see that there, but it is nearly entirely flat. It's just the dark area you're seeing is the CA glue around where I filled those holes. All right, now we're going to take some a little bit less aggressive stuff and smooth this out, get the scratches off. Let's see, I need a 400. There it is. Yeah, it feels pretty good right now. I don't feel any real bump there. It'll probably disappear nicely once I prime it. Yeah, that filled in really nicely. All right, so what else can we do today? Oh gosh, anybody got any questions about this? Like how we're gonna? I guess I could bring this back over, show you what we did. So let me go back to down like this. Just gives me a little bit wider angle here. So this is going to go in again on the bottom. I don't need this for it to stand up, but the original location was kind of about right there. So I was actually going to turn this so it would kind of look like this. Let me spin it around here. So, but as you can see, there's not a lot of space up here in the front for putting that figure. So what I want to do is I'll rotate this 45 degrees, and then I'll move this back to this corner. Now you see that opens up a ton of space in front here. So now I can place my liquid solid snake or whatever his name is, put him out here somewhere in the front. And then it'll still kind of give a nice dynamic type display with the ankles and stuff. I think I like this better than just displaying a square. Now it's more of a diamond shape, but it also opens up, like I said, all that area there in front for this little tiny figure that I'm going to have to paint, finish it off. So when this fully cures, and then I can drill my holes. I'm going to go as far as I can out here to the back, and then I'll run the wires. Once I drill it through, I'll have to come at an angle, probably for the thin, the actual wiring, and then I'll come through and run my battery over here into this chamber here. Is this the Kotobukiya version of Metal Gear? Yes, it is. How you doing, Valentine Wolf? How you doing? Yes, it is the 1/100 Metal Gear Rex. I'm just building a different base for it. This is something that the original base was just too small. It's like a 6x6. This is 8x8. So it just fits better. The feet were kind of hanging off the other base, and it was really not that interesting. So I decided to make something new, and just basically scratch built an entirely new base for it. But I drilled the hole here originally for the kind of the support stand, but it just kind of forces the figure to come too far forward. So I'm going to move it into the corner here, rotate it this way, and then this will sit more like this. So this will be kind of in the corner. That way you can see where this is positioned. Whoops, I just bumped it. But so this is going to sit right about there, and that will line everything up a little bit better. So I got more room in front here to put my little figure. And then I can turn the head and make him looking at him. But anyway, that's what we're going to do. That makes sense. Let's see. Let me put this on screen. That's a good comment. I was wondering why so much bigger than the one I have. Yeah, the base. Well, let me see if I even have I think I might have put it away. Let me see if I can find the base that came in the kit. I think I put it in the box where I have my other base kit here. It should be too hard to find. Yeah, so here's the original size right here. Just too small. It's not going to work. I mean, it fits, but to be honest, it just, for me, it seemed like it was just, they could have made it bigger. I mean, I have other base kits that actually interlock with these to work, like the way these connect together, but then I would have to have this huge base. It was just either too small or just way too big. So I decided, you know what, I'm just going to scratch build my own. So I cut a piece 8x8 styrene sheet and then built the framework around it and do that. So that's where we're at. So anyway, thanks for joining in, Valentin. I appreciate you. Just as always, like anybody else I met for the first time, I appreciate you guys supporting the channel. On Friday, I'll be getting more of these IC connectors so I can finish the wiring. But the reason for me separating it was so I could transport this a lot easier rather than having this kit tethered to the base. I wanted to be able to disconnect it, and then I can kind of fold things up. I'll have enough space or have enough excess wiring where I can take this piece off, lay it alongside, tape it down, whatever I got to do, just to kind of make it easier to if I was going to transport it or travel with it to a different location. And then, of course, the Rex will stand on its own. I can just pack it in a box, but I don't have to worry about this base and everything flying around. Just makes it easier. All right. Well, I think we're running out of things I can do tonight on this live stream. I might cut this one short a little early. So what we've done so far, this is, again, 0.5 mil sheet, 8x8. Built all this structure just using a little hobby miter box and some styrene strips, and to give it some good stability and structure. Marked and scribed some lines. Let's go back to the close-up here. Okay, so marked and scribed these lines, clean them up with a little bit of thin cement. Filled in the original hole that I have this base drilled for. I'm going to redo that. When this cures, that piece cures over here in the corner, I can redo that. And then I'll hit it with some black Evo, Gaia Notes Evo primer. That'll act as a pre-shade, and then I'll pick a gray color or something like that. Something probably light, not too dark. I want the Rex to be the star, so I want to make sure that I don't make it too dark. You want to be able to see that, so I think a lighter color might work well. It might help be able to see the undercarriage of this thing. So anywho, I think we're going to wrap this one up, folks. Thanks everybody for joining in tonight. Let me go through the list here, and we'll go one by one. Nick, thanks for coming in. Julius, Angel, and Giovanni, thanks for again your support. I appreciate you. Appreciate each and every one of you. And then Valentin, well, thanks for coming in. Thanks for seeing us. Good to meet you. Hope to see you in the future. Let's go here. I'll go up here and see my mug. All right, boys and girls. Thanks again for joining in. We're going to wrap this one up tonight, and then hopefully next week I'll have this base finished. All the kits are snapped on the Netflix Gundam kits. Those are all snapped together. I'm still working on posing for that. I might continue that diorama when I'm done with this one. But until then, hopefully next week, like I said, we'll see if I can get that the holes drilled, get everything reset to where it should be. Do some primer, maybe paint it. We'll see where we're at before next week. Looking forward to more streams. Thanks. Yeah, sure, Valentine. I appreciate you. Thanks for coming in. I really do appreciate you. But check out the old stuff. Now, there's step by step. This is part 7 of this project, but there's all 1 through 6 is all on the YouTube channel. You head over to that channel, you'll see it there, unless you can find it on Twitch. I don't know if you can find it there or not. I'm not sure how Twitch works. Thanks, Nick. Later on. Anyway, but head over to the YouTube channel, click that like and subscribe button. You know, all the usual stuff, and a little bell icon to let you guys know when I'm coming on. But pretty much do this every week, every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific is when I'm on. And unless something weird comes up, like last week, I was on a Tuesday, but and then guess what? You know, tomorrow is my birthday. So yeah, we'll see how that goes this week. Anyway, all right, you guys, I'm going to head on out. Let me set you free with the outro video. Talk to you soon. See you next week.